Today's lesson is on writing and graphing linear equations. We've been graphing linear equations for several days. Now we're going to learn more about writing them. So what we need to know when we're talking about writing the equation down is we need to know that y and x are variables. They describe a specific point. And remember, every point on a line can be written with an ordered pair with the x first and the y second. Then the other parts of our equation, m is the slope, describes the slope of the line, the steepness, how steep it is, whether it's positive or negative. B is what we call the y-intercept. It describes where the line crosses the y-axis. So what we're going to be doing here is we know that every equation of a line can be written like this. If it's an equation of a line, there's only one exception, which we're not going to be looking at today. In the place of m is where we put the slope, and in the place of b we put the y-intercept. So if we know the slope is 2 and we're told that, we can just write it in front of the x. And if the y-intercept is 1, it can be written after the plus sign. If it's positive, it'd be plus 1. If that would have been negative, it'd be plus negative 1 or minus 1. But this is a positive 1, then we want to graph it. We always start our graph of our line on the y-axis at the y-intercept. Our y-intercept is positive 1. The slope tells us how steep the line is. Writing a whole number as a fraction, remember that the slope represents the rise over the run. So I'm going to rise 2 and run 1. So you notice I went up 2 and to the right 1. And I can keep doing that until I run out of graph. Now, it goes on forever, but we're going to run out of the graph that we can actually just show on our paper. I can do that same ratio going down 2 and over 1. Now, I know that my slope is positive, so this line has to be going uphill from left to right. And now I have graphed that equation. I have written the equation down with the information I was given, and I then graphed it. And that's what we're going to work on today. We're going to have different problems that have different parts that are given to us. This is going to be new to you. We want to write the equation of a line, and we're going to be given one of the points, and we're going to be given the slope. So remember that 4, 5 is one ordered pair on the line. So that's one of the ordered pairs. 4 represents x. 5 represents y. We were also given in this problem a slope of 1/2, which is m. So pay careful attention. Y is 5. And I'm going to make that purple up here. So I am going to change the y in this equation. Here's the y. I'm going to turn it into the 5. Now m is 1/2. So I am going to put 1/2 where my m is. Then x is 4. And I'm going to put a 4 in place of x. And then the one thing I do not know in this problem is my y-intercept or my b. But again, let's look through that. We had y equals m x plus b. So when we had that, I changed my y into the 5 right here. I changed my m into the 1/2 from here. I changed my x into the 4 from this point. And I just left the b part because I did not know it. Now we have to go back to our solving equations knowledge from the last unit. I'm going to bring down this 5 because there's nothing I can do with that. But I can multiply 1/2 and 4 together. And 1/2 times 4 is 2. So I multiplied the 1/2 and the 4 together and got 2. So this right here, multiplied together, is the 2. Then to get the b by itself, this b right here, by itself, I need to do the opposite to get rid of what's on the side with the b, which there's a 2 there. The opposite of positive 2 is negative 2, or subtract 2. So 5 subtract 2 is 3. And I only have to do a 1 step. I really do 2. I multiply my 1/2 and 4 together, and then I subtract the 2, and that gives me my b. So remember, my slope was already given to me as 1/2. But now I know my b is 3. So I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to put 1/2, my slope goes in front of the x, and my y-intercept goes on the end. I'm ready to graph this line. I found out my y-intercept. I was not told it. I was told a point on the line and the slope of the line. But I used my equation, y equals mx plus b, filled it in, and solved it. So then I figured b out. The m was already given to me. So 3 is my y-intercept, and then I'm going to rise 1 and run 2. Rise 1 and run 2. Rise 1 and run 2. Positive slope. The line is going uphill from left to right. And I'm going to put as many dots that will fit using that slope. And I'm going to draw my line. The arrows on the end mean it goes on forever, but of course I can't show it forever on my paper. So now I have written the equation. I was given the point and a slope. Now if you will look right here, that is the point 4, 5, and that was in my problem. So it's right there on the line, just like my problem said. So here we are going to write an equation of a line, given a point and given the slope. So here's the point, and here is the slope. If I want to, I can go right down here and say, oh, I already know my slope is 4, and I know a 4 is going to go right there. I just need to know the b. So I'm going to take my point 1/2, and I'm going to write the x value in purple, and I'm going to write the y value in red. And I'm going to go down here and I'm going to circle my m in blue. These are the things I'm going to replace. I'm going to replace y with the 2 that was in the ordered pair. I'm going to replace m with the 4 that was given to me in the problem. I'm going to replace the x with a 1. And then the b is what I do not know. I am going to multiply this pair together right here, and that will give me 4. So I have 2 equals 4 plus b. I'm going to take 4 away from both sides. One step. Opposite of 4 is negative 4. Subtract 4 from both sides. 2 minus 4 is negative 2. So that turns out to be my y-intercept. And that goes there and there. And your problems will be set up like this on your worksheet, just like this. It'll have a place for you to write the slope and y-intercept and a place to fill it in. Now I could rewrite this as 4x minus 2 since the slope was negative. So to graph it, my graph crosses the y-axis at negative 2. Then I rise 4 and run 1. And rise 4 and run 1. I'm out of space that way. Down 4 and over 1 this way, and I'm out of room there. Makes my straight uphill line, arrows on both ends. I've graphed my line, and I've written the equation. And again, if you notice, right there is 1, 2, which was given in our problem, that was a point on the line, and it indeed is. One more of this kind, I believe. So we are going to take our point. This is our y value. This is our x value. And here is our slope. Since that is our slope, I know it's going to go here and here. But what I don't know is my y-intercept. So my y value is negative 1. My m value is negative 1/3. My x value is a 3. And what I don't know is my b value. I'm going to multiply this pair of things together here. Negative 1/3 times 3. Now use a calculator if that helps you, especially with those fractions. But negative 1/3 times 3 is negative 1. And I can show you how I got that, plus the b value. I'm going to add 1 to both sides, and negative 1 plus 1. I'm going to add 1 because that was a negative 1 to begin with. Right here, this is negative 1. So I have to add the 1 to both sides. Negative 1 plus 1 is 0. So b turned out to be a 0. Now let's go back to taking negative 1/3 times 3. Every whole number can be written with a 1 underneath. And then to multiply fractions, we multiply the numerators, negative 1 times 3, the denominators, 3 times 1, and negative 3 divided by 3 is negative 1. So I can do it without a calculator to the side, or I can use a calculator. Now this graph is going to begin at 0. That was the y-intercept. Then I have to go down 1 and to the right 3 because this line is got a negative slope, so it's going to be going downhill. But I can use the same ratio, 1 up 1 and to the left 3, to continue to put points on my line. It should just be going downhill from left to right because it has a negative slope. Now we have a new type of problem. This time we're going to write the equation of a line given 2 points. So there's some things we have to remember. The one thing we have to remember is that m can be found with 2 points, with the change in y over the change in x. So I'm going to do that. These two are my x values, and these two are my y values. So my y values are 4 and 7. So I'll put 4 minus 7 on top, the change in y. And on bottom, I put 6 minus 8, the change in the x. You learned this in another lesson. 4 take away 7 is negative 3. 6 take away 8 is negative 2. A negative divided by negative is a positive. So what I now know is that m equals 3/2. So that can go here, and I'm going to put it here as well. Now I need to find my b, which we just learned how to do. So if I know that, I'm going to change my m right here to a different color just to show you. M turned out to be 3/2. So I'm going to change the m into a 3/2. The y is going to get replaced with a 4 and the x with a 6. Now, I decided not to use that one right there. I used the other point. Now, I could have put 8 and 7 in there if I wanted to, but I'm going to go with the first point each time. I'm going to replace my x with the 6 and the y with the 4. I could have done it with the other point, but I'm just going to keep things consistent. Remember how we did fractions and we were multiplying 3 over 2 times 6? It would be 6 over 1. And that is 18 over 2, which is 9. Or you can use a calculator. Sorry, I'm going to let that go. So that piece right there is 9. And that's these two multiplied together. And that equals 4. One-step equation. Opposite of positive 9. Negative 9 from both sides. I hit it again. Sorry. That's negative. Keeps hitting that one thing. That is negative 5 for B. 4 minus 9 is negative 5. It goes there and there. And remember, this can be written 3/2 x minus 5 because B turned out to be negative. So to graph it, I need to begin at negative 5 on the y-axis. And I need to go up 3 and over 2, so you can count that. 1, 2, 3 over 2. You can count your streets, as some people call them, until I run out of room for that. This slope is positive, so it's going to go up, 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 uphill. And then we're going to, so we now have our line going uphill. And it says it crosses it at 6, 4. So I think I need to redo that because somewhere my eyes are crossing. Okay, so we're going to begin at negative 5. I hope you did it counted correctly and didn't do it incorrectly like I did. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. I knew it was a little off. All right, now I'm going to draw my line. Now, our problem said that 6, 4 was on the line. That is right there. It also said that 8, 7 was on the line. Well, that's not shown on our graph because our graph only goes up to 7. Now, graphs go on forever. It's just not in our picture. If we were to have a bigger graph with more numbers on it, then we would see it. Here's another one of these problems. So this is our x values. These are our y values. I need to find m first. So I'm going to take my two y values, which are 1 and 6, and they're going to be subtracted on top because that's the change in y. The x values are negative 2 and 3. That's my change in x. So that gives me a negative 5 on top and a negative 5 on bottom, a slope of 1. So m turned out to be 1. Let's make m a different color, maybe yellow. So we're going to do 1. Because our x value I'd already used that color. So m is 1 in that very first ordered pair. This very first one is the one I'm using. I'm going to put the negative 2 in place of the x. And I'm going to put 1 in place of y. Then I'm going to multiply this pair together. 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. And the opposite of negative 2 is positive 2, so that goes on both sides to figure out the b value. It's 3. So slope is 1, y-intercept is 3. So I can begin at 3 and go up 1 and over 1. In the other direction, I can go down 1 to the left 1. That still gives my line the right slope. Slope is positive in this problem, so it goes uphill. Negative 2, 1, the original problem said would be on the line. I'll use a different color. And it's right there. 3, 6 was also in the original problem, and look, it followed the line right there. So this is the right line that has those 2 points located on it. Here's another one. We have our x values. We have our y values. We want the change in y. 4 minus 6. This is how we find the slope. The change in x. 3 minus negative 3. Don't forget the subtract is in there, and then what if that next number is negative, like this one is negative, it has to have that negative 3. And I can use a calculator to get negative 4 minus 6 is negative 2. 3 take away negative 3 is positive 6. And this fraction has even numbers on top and bottom, so it's reducible. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So m turns out to be negative 1/3. Again, I want to write that in a different color so I can color code it for you. So the m is slope is negative 1/3. My x value was a 3. My y value was a 4, and that's from that very first point. And I want to find the b value. Multiply this pair together, negative 1/3 times 3. You can use a calculator and you'll find out that that is 1. Or you can do it the way I showed you. With writing both as a fraction and multiplying the top together and the bottom together. The opposite of negative 1 is positive 1. So b turns out to be a positive 5. So this graph's going to begin at 5. Then I've got to go down 1 over 3. This line should be going downhill. I'm hoping that you're getting the graphing of the lines by now. And so you know when I put these points on where I'm getting them from. If I recognize in this line 3, 4, it is on the line. And negative 3, 6 is on the line. And that's what our original problem said, that those 2 points would be on this line. So we have the correct answer. This time we have 4, negative 2, and 1, 7. So our x values are 4 and 1. Our y values are negative 2 and 7. So if I take my change in the y values, it would be negative 2 minus 7 over the change in our x values is 4 minus 1. That's negative 9 when you take negative 2 minus 7. 4 minus 1 is 3. Negative 9 divided by 3 is negative 3. So again, we're going to write this in purple. That is our m value. That is our slope. I'm going to replace all 3 pieces with that. I'm going to use this first point right here, and I'm going to put a -2 in for the y value. I'm going to put a 4 in for the x value. I'm going to multiply this pair together. -3 times 4 is -12. And then that equals -2. And our b value is 10. So our y-intercept is 10. We have a problem. Our graph only goes up to 7, so I'm going to add 3 more lines. And that's going to be my 10 way up there. Then I'm going to go down 3, over 1 for my slope. Down 3, over 1. Down 3, over 1. Down 3, over 1. This line is going down, 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 downhill. And so if we look at 4, -2, in our original problem, it said 4, -2 would fall on our line. And it said that 1, 7 would fall on our line. And they do. And notice that I didn't have 10 on my graph. Well, I can add extra lines onto the y-axis or x-axis at any point and still graph the line. Okay, we have one more. The x values are 2. The y values are 4 and 6. 1 and 2, 4 and 6. So the change in y will be 4 take away 6. The change in x will be 1 take away 2. 4 take away 6 is -2. 1 take away 2 is -1. And those divided is a +2. M is 2. M is 2. Let's circle this in yellow. So we're going to use this first point. So my y value is 4. My x value is 1, and I want to find the b. So I'm going to multiply this pair together. 2 times 1 is 2. The opposite of +2 is -2 or -2. That's 2 equals b. So both my slope and my y-intercept are both 2 this time, which is fine. We begin at 2. Every whole number can be written with a 1 underneath. So I'm going to go up 2 and over 1, up 2 and over 1. I'm going to go in the other direction, down 2 and to the left 1 to keep the line with the positive slope going straight uphill. 1, 4 is located right here, and 2, 6 right here, which were the original 2 number points on our line, and they are on the graph. Now you're going to practice, and your problems are going to be set up just like the ones that I did for you, and you're going to practice at this time.